Hi,
Hey,
everybody. I am Alisa, a grateful compulsive eater. Like all of you, I take my food from the gray sheet. I committed to my sponsor, and I don't eat anything in between my three weighed and measured meals, except for abstinent beverages. My abstinence date is August 15th, 2008, and I am maintaining a 90-pound weight loss, which is for, I think on a good day, I'm 5'1", so that's a lot of weight. And I didn't come into the program until I was 59 years old, and not a minute too soon, believe me. Um, I'll just tell a little bit of my story and then I'll get into how I live today. I think I was born a sugar addict. As a child, all I did was eat sugary things, and there were no restrictions in my home. I had, access to the cabinets that had all the stuff that we don't eat. However, I never ate at meals. So and I was born in 1949. So in the 1950s, like kids were outdoors all the time playing, till supper time. And so I was very active. So I did not gain any weight until I went to junior high and high school and reached puberty, at which time I had a lot more schoolwork that kept me inside. And I guess as a teen, I mean, just talking on the phone for hours, um, and having more disposable income, as a teenager, a bigger allowance, babysitting money, and I used that money to buy sweets. And one funny thing that today I can smile about is I remember being a little girl, maybe 9 or 10, and I lived in the suburbs. And there were tons of kids, I'm a real baby boomer. There were tons of kids on the street that I lived on. And so I had a few girlfriends my age, and maybe we were 10, we were allowed to walk. It was maybe 6 or 8 blocks to a little store that sold sweets. And, I think maybe I had a 20, I don't know, 10 cent, 15 cent, 25 cent allowance. And we would go there and I would look at these rows and rows of things that we just do not eat. And I remember thinking to myself, as I was picking, like, which ones would I buy today? When I grow up and I have a real job, I am going to buy one of every single one of these candies. And, like then it hit me later in recovery, like other kids think, I want to be an astronaut. I want to, be like an airplane pilot or firefighter, a teacher or doctor or whatever. What was my goal? To have enough money to buy all the sugar in the world. And I saw no irony in it at the time. But today, I mean, poor little Elisa, whatever. So then in puberty, the weight came on partly through, the physiological changes that occur and partly through the excessive eating of high dense calorie foods. So I came up with a brilliant solution: smoke cigarettes instead of eating. And I guess it sort of kept my weight at bay, although it was very unhealthy. And in fact, I began smoking cigarettes just when in the United States, the Surgeon General announced that smoking was harmful to your health. And it was like, you're not going to tell me what to do. That sort of rebellion that the addict has. I found out later that American tobacco is cured in sugar. European tobacco is different. So I was still getting the sugar. So, I was just an addict with her substance. And then, well, I was not, I had a pretty solid childhood, but I was very anxious and fearful and um, not very comfortable in the world. And I couldn't figure out what to do. So I figured out that I should get married. So, um, like 3 weeks after my 20th birthday, I got married. And happily, I am still married to the same man. It's over 56 years now. And so, you know, my higher power was looking out for me in that respect. Um, however, I was still in college. I didn't know how to prepare food or go shopping or anything. And, I just bought all the sugary things, and my husband was right there with me. And so we just gradually gained weight and gained weight. And then we started a family when I was 26. I had 4 pregnancies. So then I had to give up the cigarettes because you can't smoke when you're pregnant. So then with each of the 4 pregnancies, I gained more and more weight and lost more and more, lost less and less weight after I gave birth. And the most humiliating, or one of the most humiliating moments of my life in the addiction to compulsive eating was when an acquaintance met me at the school where my kids, I went to pick them up. And they looked at me and my belly and they said, "Ah, you're pregnant again?" And I was not pregnant. I just wanted the earth to swallow me up. I mean, they didn't mean any harm. But anyway, so when I was about, I think when I was 50 or so, I tried all different things. Um, and they worked for a while, Weight Watchers, vegan, um, these different doctor diets, one bowl, all sorts of things. And they worked for a little while. And then they didn't work because I didn't understand that it is, for me, a spiritual solution. And then, so when I was 50, I read a book by Susan Cheever about her father, John Cheever, the author, how he recovered from alcoholism late in his life. And I didn't know anything about 12-step programs because the environment that I grew up in, it just was not a thing. And I thought, oh, if only there was something like that for me. And somehow I found out about OA, and I went to OA for 9 years, and it was very helpful because I learned that I have a problem that is not unique to me, that compulsive eating and sugar addiction is it's an addiction, and there's all sorts of addictions. And I was with a group of people who shared this addiction. And I saw people in those rooms who did recover. However, I could not be honest with my sponsor about the food I was eating. There was no set food plan. I just couldn't settle down. Um, and I remember my first sponsor tried to tell me to read the doctor's opinion. And to the part about the phenomenon of craving and the mental obsession. And I just didn't get it. I just didn't get it. Anyway, then um, in 2008, a friend recommended to me that I try Gray Sheet. She said, if nothing else works, Gray Sheet will work. And I was very desperate because at that point, I was binging uncontrollably, and literally, I'm not exaggerating. I woke up fatter every single day. I was binging in bed like all night long. So I went to Gray Sheet and I was struck abstinent. Thank God. I mean, after I did 59 years of research. And I remember on my first day, I was meeting my husband, my daughter, her maid of honor, and the maid of honor's parents for dinner in Manhattan. And that was my day one dinner. And I was new to weighing. I mean, I barely knew what I was doing. And I said to my sponsor, well, can I just eyeball it or what can I do? And they said the most wonderful thing that I hold close to my heart today. They said, Alisa, you have options. You have three options. You can eat an abstinent meal before you meet everyone in the restaurant and just sip abstinent beverages, or you can weigh and measure your food at the table and eat with everyone else, or you can sit at the table and drink abstinent beverages and go home and eat your abstinent dinner. Well, that was not an option. Anyway, it worked out. I weighed and measured, even though I didn't know these people. I didn't know how to weigh and measure. Everyone at the table was helping me with the scale and stuff, and it worked out just fine. And since then, I have been abstinent. Thank you, God. So, so that was August of 2008. And it took me quite a few years to feel like I belonged in Gray Sheet. I felt like a newcomer and uncomfortable, and I didn't really understand about the fellowship. And then after 5 years, I guess I went to the step study programs, the AWOLs, and then I even had the courage to lead some AWOLs and sharing my fifth step over and over with different people in the program broke down barriers and I began to feel like I'm really part of this. And that just gives me tingles to think that here we are, like who on earth is doing what we do with such commitment? And then well, I had a very full life with all these children and working and aging parents and stuff. 3 minutes, got you, thank you. And then when I retired and things opened up, I understood that I could really get involved at the World Service level to the extent that I can. So I became a GSR. I joined the literature committee and I worked very hard on the literature committee. And it has just, I mean, the people who do service are just the best gray sheeters. I mean, all gray sheeters, we are all amazing, wonderful people. But the ones who really are willing to stick their necks out and try and work, it's been so rewarding to me. And then in um, 2021, I learned about two-way prayer and guidance journals and sharing. And that has really open things up for me. And I have sharing partners and I have sponsees. I have the same sponsor who told me I have options, and that is so liberating. And um, so today I go to lots of meetings. I'm a GSR. I'm on the literature committee. I'm a World Service Conference delegate. I do everything I can. I try to be oh, I forget what it's called when people a startup sponsor, that's it. But that was hard for me. I'm not so great at organizing my time and stuff. So I don't do booking or timing because I'm a little ditzy. However, with the literature committee, I can show up for the meetings. I can work on my own time to do the tasks that are required. And it's just such a privilege. Um, I pray and meditate every day. I keep a guidance journal every day. I write, I pray with some other people. I write a letter to my higher power, and then I sit there and I get an answer. And the more I do this, the more these soft little whispered answers come to me and I can heed them. And I also, let's see, 21 seconds. So one of the things I love to do is rewrite the prayers of that are in the big book. And my newest one is, and I realize this is my work now. Instead of saying, God, I offer myself to thee, I pray, God, I surrender myself to thee. And that is what really works. That's my time, no matter what people